Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. And today I want to talk about investing versus collecting. And the big difference here is that a lot of people that are investing in cards generally look for cards that are very liquid. Cards like this, cards that you can buy and sell right away. And, they produce, I don't know, there's probably 500,000 of these Ken Griffey Jr. cards graded out there, if not more. And, these cards are very desirable. A lot of people want them, so there's supply and demand there, of course. But, I consider these more of, investing flipper type cards. Cards that, again, are very liquid. They're in high demand. People want to go ahead and own one. But generally, everybody can own one of these. They're not that expensive. This particular card is under $300. But I want to talk about now and show you a card that is a collector card. A card that I just purchased. And I haven't purchased too much this year other than the National. But I'm going to show you the back of this card first. Here's what I call a collector card. This is a Wild Baking Company. And just like the only difference between this and the Griffey, the only similarity between this and the Griffey is that they're both under $300. The big difference is that the demand on the Griffey is huge. And the demand on this one probably definitely is not. But as a collector, if I had under $300 to spend, or around, $300 to spend, or $250 actually is probably what this is worth, these are worth. I paid a little bit more than $250 on this one, and less than $300. And this is probably worth, similar to that. In a 9. And for me, as a collector, these are the cards that I'm looking for. As far as, investors or flippers, these are the cards they're looking for. So as a collector, I want to look for cards that, for me, have some meaning. They're kind of rare cards. And even though they're both under $300, I'll buy these every day versus something like this because I am a collector. I'm not someone that's going to go ahead and, want a card where I can go ahead and flip it right away. This card has found a home in my collection and probably will stay in my collection forever. This card, well, if I needed the money, I could move it and get the money today, right away. And it's something that maybe will stay in my collection. I actually had 2 of these in a 9. One came from a pack I opened and the other one came, and I think this is the one that came from the complete set that I had. I just pulled it out and had it graded. But this card I can move anytime, where this card's a little bit different because of the supply and demand. But to me, as a collector, these are the cards I want. So if I'm going to spend let's say $250 and get this or get this, I'm going to go with this every single time. And these are cards that will be in my collection forever. But if you present this card to a flipper or somebody that wants to get money right away, they're probably not going to be interested. They're going to want this. So, that's the 2 differences between people, not just collectors and investors, but people on YouTube. On YouTube, many times, you'll see a lot of these common type cards, either in PSA 10s or, Mattingly 84 Donruss in high grades and things like that. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're looking to move because they know that they can get their money right away. But a collector like me and John Mangini, we're looking for the rare issues, the stuff you're not going to find very often. And again, price is similar. Difference is there's probably 500,000 of these graded, and there's only one of these. This is the only one that exists in both SGC and PSA. And for me, that says a lot, not just for as a collector, but it says a lot as far as the card industry itself. You know, why a card like this would be worth so low, and a card like this would essentially be worth high, because there are so many of them, so rarely available. And you know, you can open up a box of these 89 Upper Deck today and get one of these, where you're never going to find one of these. And like I said, there's only one, and this is the only one, and it's in my collection, and I'm proud to have this card. So let me share what this card is. And I said it's a Weil Baking Company card. Weil Baking, it was a company out of New Orleans, the biggest baking company in New Orleans. And I believe the building is still there. It's no longer a baking company, but they started in the 1900s, I think in 1906 specifically. And Weil Baking distributed cards at their bakery, and they distributed cards in 1916 and 1917. The 1916, they distributed with the M101. Now these are, you know, what they call I guess it's Felix Mendelssohn actually did these cards originally, 1916, 1970, 17. So you'll see these, most of the ones you'll see in these are McCarthy, the McCarthy backs. And there's a couple of other issues, but Weil is probably one of the rarest issues. And this card is of Armando Marsans. And as you know, I collect Armando Marsans cards. And Armando Marsans was one of the first. There were two Cuban pitchers, two Cuban players that started in baseball back in 1912. And they both played for the Cincinnati team, Cincinnati Reds, or Red Stockings, I guess they were called at the time. And Armando Marsans came with Rafael Almeida, and move the Griffey out of the way, came with Rafael Almeida to play baseball from Cuba. And even though that he's considered a common card in the set, in the Weil Baking set and in the Collins McCarthy set, he's considered a common card. To me, he's not common. And I've told the story of Armando Marsans many, many times. Just briefly, I'll share it again. Cuban born, came to this country, well educated, got a college degree, studied law, and started playing with the Cincinnati Reds. And this is his card with Cincinnati. This is a 1913 Fatima card. And you can see Marsans right there. And it says right there, Marsans. And he played with Almeida. And you can see Almeida is right there. Those are the two Cuban pitchers, Almeida and Marsans, that played and were drafted, not really drafted. They came on with Cincinnati because Almeida was highly considered the best athlete at the time, best player at the time, but he spoke no English. But Marsans, he came of a very rich family, and he spoke very, very well, perfect English, as he studied law here in the States. So he came here, and he played for the Reds. And, you know, in Cuba it was a lot different, because a lot of these guys, they played with the Negro leaguers, with the black players and the white players, and they played together. And in Cuba, you could, you know, you were a free agent. You were paid. The team that paid you the most was the team that you would go and play with. So when Marsans got here, he started with the Reds, and at one point he wanted to switch teams and play with another team, and he wasn't allowed to. So he went ahead and he did leave the Reds, broke his contract, and the Reds and the National League sued him. And Marsans decided to go to the Federal League and started the Federal League. And you can see St. Louis Federals. So he went to play for the Federal League. This is his Cracker Jack card from 1915. And history goes that he was sued. Took 2 years. He sued the league also. He was really the first guy to challenge the reserve clause, and they went to court, and it took 2 years to fight that battle. But at the end, and he was banned from playing in the major leagues. And since he took a few players to the Federal League for more money, the league wasn't happy, so they banned him. And after that, he eventually won the lawsuit. It took him 2 years to win the lawsuit. So, just like Curt Flood, he was the first guy to really challenge that league. So, that's kind of the history on that, as the first guy to challenge that, the league and the reserve clause and leave. So after he won the lawsuit, he went back to play, in the National League, and he went to play with St. Louis Browns. And here's the card, the Wild Baking card, when he played for St. Louis after that lawsuit. Now, unfortunately, he got hurt because he broke his leg or had a leg injury, and didn't do well after that. And eventually he was traded. He did play a little bit with the Reds again, and he ended his career with the Yankees. And he played a total of 8 years in the United States. But, he also went back to Cuba, and he ended up playing back in Cuba again. And this is a 1923-24 Nacionales of Armando Marsans, when he went back to Cuba. And this is the Cuban Cuban baseball card. So he got her Nacionales. And they ended up playing back in Cuba and back with his home team, and ended up being a coach there. And Marsans played with a lot of the big name Negro Leaguers in Cuba, and he's very famous and became one of the most popular players in Cuba. Of course, he played with Negro Leaguers like Pop Lloyd, Oscar Charleston, Rube Foster, and many other players that never really got to play here in the United States in the professional ball, other than the Negro Leagues. So that's the quick story of Armando Marsans. And that's why I collect Armando Marsans cards. And that's why, as a collector, I value his cards, a lot more than I would value a Griffey card. So again, you can get this Griffey any day, but this is the only Armando Marsans from Wild Baking Company. And very similar to the Collins McCarthy, same picture, just a different back. So I'll give you another quick look at this Armando Marsans card. And it's a card that, this is the only one that exists as far as SGC and PSA registry. Even John Mangini doesn't have this card. But it adds to my Armando Marsans collection. I do have his 1916 M101 and a couple of more of his cards. I do have his rookie card, which is the 1909 Cabanas, another Cuban issue. But just wanted to share that, and just want to talk a little bit about, why I am a collector and collecting stuff like this versus collecting just mostly regular issue cards, even though I do have, a lot of the investor type cards. My focus has shifted shifted over the years to collect cards of players like this that have become really, once as a collector, once you start checking into history and you learn some of these stories and you learn about some of these players, guys like Armando Marsans are no longer just a common player in these sets. You realize that he was an important person in the history of baseball. So thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I wanted to share this Armando Marsans card that I purchased. And I want to also thank Mark from Dodgers Cards, who knows that I collect Cuban cards and spotted this card and let me know it was available, put me in contact with the seller, and I went ahead and was able to purchase this one of one Armando Marsans wild baking card from 1917. It's a D328. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch you on the next one.